Guys, welcome to the Lore Reloaded channel. I'm Lore Reloaded, your gracious host. Hey, if you're watching this video on demand, as you know, I will sit back and wait for people to actually enter in to the chat so they can say hi, and then we can just get into it. So if you're watching, don't forget to check me out at twitter.com/Lore Reloaded. A lot of fun stuff going over there, including getting to talk to people more about other things other than Trek. So if you have some lore questions or you just want to talk about anything, definitely check me out over there, taking a look at who is currently in and what is going on. We got Adris Ahmed, what is going on? Dowso, always a pleasure. What's up? And again, going to give it a couple of minutes to let people get in, and then we can just start talking about it. Of course, YouTube has been having some issues with updating and telling people when I go online, which is unfortunate, to say the least. While I'm talking with you guys, I will be playing this game, at least trying to. I am doing fine, Audrey. Hope you are doing well. We got Jordan Sullivan in the house. And this is Star Trek Adversaries. I'm trying to do this whole multitask thing, see if I can play while I talk to you guys. Not sure how well that's going to go. Dark Pearl, how you doing? So, let's talk about, a lot of questions I get include, what will our future be? Do I think that Trek will be the ultimate future of humanity? And honestly, I don't. I don't think that Trek is a realistic version of the way that things are going to go for us. I think that if it was to be Trek, it'd be Deep Space Nine, but I don't think that that's going to happen. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the UFP, their headquarters, are in California. Nathan Norman, what is going on? An anonymous squid has arrived. But that did get me thinking. You know, if Trek is not the way it's going to go, and I had to guess what was the most realistic way for humanity, it honestly, for me, would be between three different ones. Trek would be the unrealistic, hopeful version. I think Babylon 5 is probably, from what I've seen of Babylon 5, I haven't watched all of it, but from what I know of Babylon 5, that would be the second, probably most likely way things are going to go. And then the worst case scenario is, of course, Battlestar Galactica reimagined, in my opinion. And the reason why I think it's Babylon 5 is, first off, Babylon 5 is a lot more realistic. It still has religion that's addressed a lot more than what you see in Trek. It realistically deals with human nature and the way we are as a people. It doesn't ignore or attempt to deny. Because honestly, while I like Trek, I just don't think it's reflective of humanity. And one of the ways we know this is look at Deep Space Nine, or look at the future, or the newer Trek. Not even including Discovery, but look at the movies and things. They are more popular because they move away from this idealized human and they put humans in more realistic settings. That said, I do think that Battlestar Galactica could be something that would happen to us. I mean, man has a hubris. Human beings have a hubris that can lead to our own destruction, our own downfall. So, what do you guys think? I'm curious to get your feedback on it. We got Laughable Larry. Hey, Lore, you're my favorite Star Trek channel. Well, thank you. Technically a lore channel, but hey, I'll take it. Edging out Trek Yards. I like how you really speak your mind, even if it's bound to make fans irritated. Yeah, well, that, it's me. That's what I decided the channel is going to be. The channel's a conversation. If it's conversation, I'm going to be honest with you guys. That does lose me people. People leave because they don't like what I have to say. For instance, I don't think Trek is a realistic future for us, but hey, at least you get what you get. I like Trek Yards too, though. They're good people. We're going to be doing something. Me and Trek Yards, I've talked to both Foley and Cockings. We got something coming up. I got something coming up with Right Gamers and Ketwalski and Council of Geeks. I got a lot of stuff coming up. Really cool. And an anonymous squid says, so I think the Terran Empire. You know, I sincerely have a better opinion of humanity than the Terran Empire. I think we have a capacity to be the Terran Empire, but I think there's enough good people that we won't be. I think that there's enough in the world that that's not going to be a problem. Because anytime you see evil, because evil is subjective and changes depending on who you're talking to and the era you're in, but wherever there is evil, you'll have somebody willing to stand up to them, somebody willing to fight. And so I sincerely think that will stop us from ever being the Terran Empire. But Babylon 5 kind of brings us closer to the Terran Empire. You have, with the president and everything, I think that you see dictatorships rise and fall in Babylon 5. And I think that's why Babylon 5 has it. You know, and interesting, something I could see happening too, is if you haven't, I fully suggest for any sci-fi fan to read and watch a lot of the Halo extended universe. I could see us turning that way too. It is so in-depth for a game like Halo. You would be very surprised. B5 is cool, but we probably won't have Psy-Core. You can do anything, just do it with respect when using the source material, says Epix00. I hate when Star Trek tries to fit in our timeline with theirs. Voyager did that, and it annoyed me. What specifically are you talking about? Give me some examples. Hey, buddy. Relax. They're doing mining right now or something, using explosives, and it's freaking them out. All right, go away. Go away. I think we're more likely to have a government like in Mass Effect. That's possible. I didn't really consider Mass Effect. Mass Effect seems a little too cheerful for me too, though. Discovery should have been named a reimagined show. It would have worked so much better. Completely agree with you. You're not going to find me. I am a huge supporter of that. Well, I think the first contact will go roughly, but after a series of reforms, I think there will be a more optimistic society. Babylon 5 is one of the reasons I think that the way Babylon 5 handles it, I think is one of the reasons why it's going to be more similar to Babylon 5. Because in some of the episodes, you can see where they have first contact with, I believe it's the Minbari. But if you watch that entire episode, what's interesting is when they're first talking about interacting with the Minbari, they talk about how they tried first contact with another species. That species declared war and got the living hell beat out of it by the humans. The humans won. And so they're coming off of this war they just won, a little pompous, a little egotistical. And so when they interact with the Minbari, and the Minbari do the most stupid thing you could do, which is to come at you weapons hot, ready to fire, the humans start a war and start losing, getting the living hell beat out of it. Why can't I do that? Okay. But yeah, so that's why I think Babylon 5 is our best case scenario. I think Star Trek is an unreasonable scenario. At Lore Reload, did you finally finish Babylon 5? Nope. And I'm more focused on Stargate, which I have not finished either. Park is a little late. That's okay, buddy. I think that the next series should be Star Trek Relativity. It has a nice ring to it. Okay. What's going on, Steven? Jonathan, Idris, Kalium, Mark Hill, all saying hello. If you disagree with me, and by the way, guys, I want you to know something I'm kind of on the fence, but I'll probably do, is I'm going to start making this more of a... I'm going to have some shows where it's like a call-in show, but it'll probably be done via my Discord, which I'll include in the description below, where when I'm live, people can come in and have a conversation with me, so we're not just talking in the chat. You guys will actually come in and we'll talk. I got to figure out a way of doing this and keeping it so someone couldn't come on and try to get me kicked off of YouTube. But I'm almost there. But let me know if you disagree with me. If you think Star Trek is a realistic outcome for humanity, tell me why. Because when you're dealing with this, you have to look at all of humanity, not just a small group. Unless you want to make that small group authoritarian, that gain power, that that enforce their will upon all of humanity. That's the only way that works. So how does this work out? Because humans as a whole, we tend to generally fight each other or fight other things. It's just human nature. Nathan Norman, when Voyager traveled to the past in the 90s, lore states that they should have been in the midst of the Augment War. That is true. Why doesn't Star Trek have got any human religions in it? Asked Idris. It actually did in the original series. They still had religions. You still see some religions from like Vulcans, Bajorans, in The Next Generation and in Deep Space Nine. But early The Next Generation was Gene Roddenberry's era. It was when he reigned supreme. And because of that, he was very, very vitriolic towards religion. And he made sure that religion no longer existed in The Next Generation. And since then, they've kind of kept with that. What? Draw a card for each disabled ship. Why can't I play this? Play it! Nice. I feel like something akin to The Expanse will be our future, at least for the next 300 years. You know, I've seen bits and pieces of The Expanse, but I haven't watched it. I need to watch. Here's my fear. One of the reasons I don't get into new sci-fi right now is because I've promised you guys Babylon 5. I've promised you guys Stargate. And if I watch The Expanse and I love it, I'm going to do The Expanse. So I haven't really gotten into it. Fancy Teeth in the house, what is going on? There is an effect when humans see Earth from space, which has got a profound effect on their outlook. So maybe space tourism takes off, it'll be possible. Maybe. I don't see that. I wish I could see that, but I don't. At Lore Reloaded, I see a schism happening, so you'd have the Federation existing alongside the Empire. Yeah, and then that would have a more, I don't think it's Mass Effect, but it would have a more... Call of Duty did it, but they didn't do it well. Where you have the Halo does it. Where you have the outer colonies fighting the government and things like that. So basically you have the two empires. And that seems more likely too. I'm going to do a video very shortly about this. One of the things I don't know if you guys noticed is generally I talk about a subject and then I do a video on it. And that just helps me get ideas out and what you guys think about it. But there was the Halo movie. I forget which one it's called. I think it's Legends, where they talk about how it's a voiceover done against music. It's done exceptionally well, and it talks about how humanity went out in space and asked questions and hoped for peace, but within us, there's always the capacity for war and to kill, and it always gets out. And then we create better weapons, and then we come together when there's another threat, which is the Covenant. And if there's ever been a uniting front, it's, you know, a superior threat. And so it's just exceptionally well done. And I just think that that is an impossibility at this time for us to get past. I don't think we'll be able to get past it in 100 years or 200 years. It's just too ingrained. It is, in my opinion, almost a biological directive. Now, it can be overcome, but I do think it's a biological directive. As far as we know, it's not possible to break the light barrier. If it's true speed limit, then no Star Trek future. I see the future being super robot wars. Will Earth still have countries in the future? I think if we went onto a galactic scale, eventually we would become one Earth. We'd become the United Earth. I think there would probably be wars or people who would resist that to the bitter end. But I do think ultimately we would become United Earth, like you see in most all of science fiction. Captain Geronimo in the house. Oh, by the way, see ya, Anonymous Squid, if I didn't say goodbye. The way that humanity goes now, we will more likely get Terran Empire unless something changes first. I mean, we talked about that. I just think that there's enough capacity for good in humanity that I just don't see that as likely. I think that that will always be fought against. You'll have times when empires will gain when Terran empires will exist, but there will always be people to rise against it, in my opinion. Dome Hammer. Humans evolved from a predator species, so war is in our nature. Likely what would happen is you send out generation ships, then unite Earth on a goal of conquering colonies. Well, you know, and that's one thing I do like about Trek, and I think is probably realistic. We did come from predator species. It's how we survived for so long. And that's why it's ingrained in us. But because of our ability to tame being relative, become top of the food chain, ultimately our predator nature no longer is necessary. And ultimately, I think given enough time, not hundreds, but thousands of years, that can be removed from us. I think that we can evolve to not be predators anymore. Again, yeah, tribalism is deep in humans. There are 20 more countries now than when I was born, only one united. We need to leave Earth to become united. I don't disagree with that. There will always be defining areas on Earth. We'd have to have names. Can't just point out a location saying Earth unless people start coordinates, which could happen. Would be the easiest way for United Earth would be as if we discovered an alien threat to Earth. Yes, and that happens in Halo, and that's kind of what I was talking about. What would unite the Earth under one government would be if a species, which we had a chance of beating, threatened us. And then all of the nations would probably, in a lot of aspects, rise up against this new threat and build an alliance. And we still see things like that without getting too technical. And I don't want to get into the... I do not want to get into the politics of this, so I will shut it down if it does. But I think that the European Union, whether it's good or bad, whether it's effective or not, is, when you look at the history, a direct result of the World Wars. And that brought nations together. And that unified them as one. Now, they're still separate. They still try to keep it, but a lot of it is used as one. And I think a big enough threat, a big enough alien threat, would have that goal. I'm about to get killed because I don't build decks on this game, and I'm sure this dude has built decks to high heaven and back. I think the type of government we get depends on resources. Is if we have something like wow. I think the type of government we get depends on resources. If we have something like the replicators, you get something a bit closer to the Federation. See, right now, again, it goes back to the tribalism that was discussed. I think that we are too war hungry at the moment. I sincerely do. Violence is humanity's natural language, with martial arts as the regional dialect. We are more Klingon than Federation, says Nathan Norman. Stephen Bondman, thanks for coming by. Talk to you later. I agree, Nathan, and I think that you can see that in everything we do as well. I think if you look at gamers, a lot of the games are around violence. I think that appeals to our inner nature. If you look at sports, the NFL, everything like that, I don't think there's any necessarily shame in it. It's just, it is what it is. It is who we are. Guardian modulation. Huh. That has 3. Normal people practice violence for self-defense. Sure. Play Stellaris. I should play the Stellaris mod for Star Trek, shouldn't I? I actually have that. I might, but that would take a lot more. This doesn't take near as much. See, this is where he starts winning. Watch this. No idea what I'm doing on this game. And he's got 2. God, that sucks. As long as we have anti-trekkers in the world, we're doomed, says Laughable Larry. For those who don't know, anti-trekker is a guy who comes on and hosts on the show with us quite a bit. Guardian, +1 attack for each friendly crew in play. Attacker with the ship will be disabled. Attacking with this ship will disable its target. That's nice. Retreat, store. Things that make you go, Let's bring that out. Alright. Let's take you out with you. And then let's just continue to beat on old Valor. Valor, who probably doesn't know that he's currently being recorded. Every country is basically like its own pack of wolves. Well, I mean, every country is made of humans, and humans are basically both wolves and sheep at the same time, in my opinion. Another thing that I think is human nature to talk about and think about when it comes to Trek is that we as humans, and people aren't going to like to hear this, but I truly believe it's true. Truly believe it's true. Wow. We as humans like to naturally be led and have a leader. We like it when someone tells us what to do and when someone's in charge. Now, this can be done in a couple of ways. People see this in a couple of different standards. For instance, if you see someone who is a great football player, or no, this is YouTube. There are e-celebs on YouTube. Total Biscuit is somebody who's very famous for doing reviews and things, but now has social movements. Channel Awesome has done that. You know, there are people who, because you respect them, will have a want or need to follow them. And that's just the way it happens, and we fall in line with that. And I don't think we're going to get over that ever, if you ask me, in my opinion. And so, looking at it from that standpoint, is Trek possible? You know? I think the Expanse is closest to what we actually will become. I'm going to have to watch that at some point. A one-world welfare state. Steve and Julius, love your work. Keep it up. Got to dance a little bit. Apparently you guys like me dancing. I don't understand it, but I do it for you. Woot. I don't understand why you guys want me dancing for the thing, I guess. If you like me dancing. I don't mind dancing. I can dance. I can dance if you want to. But yeah. Don't forget that World War III happened, and along with nuclear holocaust, the first contact in their universe, these could all have a huge effect on humanity as a whole. I don't disagree that they would have effect on humanity as a whole, but the question is, the question becomes, can we get past the base nature even with those, you know? What do I want to do, guys? Boyos. 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5. So he's hitting me for more. Yeah, let's go ahead and take that out. How does that work? 3, 4, 5, 6. That's crap. I need to build a deck on this. Most sci-fi are humans in most sci-fi are uplifted by aliens or tech. We find if we get rid of our violence, we would be diminished and be unable to channel it for good. That's a good point. I mean, our ability to make war has its advantages, right? Violence, real violence, at least on a large scale, almost comes about due to the perception of threat, religion, resources, freedom. And these are the top causes, okay? If you want to explore a society different from Star Trek Utopia, check my book called Star Shatter. You can get it on Amazon. A Ragnar Virillion sitting here trying to make some bank off of my stream. I see how it is. I see how it is, sir. Actually, I don't care. Yeah, people check it out. If you like it, you should also leave comments and let him know your thoughts on it. After I get beaten this, we'll probably take it off. But the Halo universe is interesting as well. For those who haven't read it, basically humanity is fighting itself when the Covenant come along, and basically it's outer colonies versus inner, and you have a government that is pretty oppressive, and they do all kinds of unethical things. So I would. I like it because it does, everyone unites under it, and while you still have some resistance, mostly everybody's for the cause. Of course, humanity is getting the hell beat out of it. They are losing left, right, and center. So there's not a lot of hope in that one. But it's an interesting take on it. for sure. Oh, I didn't know he had the ability to fire on ships. One issue that we'll be addressing in the future is population decline. That happens after a country finishes industrializing. Could end up having a society completely change once decrease happens. There is truth to that. The more economically sound a government becomes, Can I talk to this guy? The more economically sound a government becomes, the more, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to use civilized, because I don't think that's the appropriate term. I don't think that's using it correctly. Advanced, I guess, is a way of saying it, and unfortunately that doesn't sound good, but it's true. Societies that are able to gain wealth seem to settle down more when it comes to violence, and also seem to begin to give rights more than they had before. Without getting deep into that, I do believe that that's true. So I guess it'd be interesting if once we have all nations industrialized, could that lead to a one world power? Do you think we could become a one world power once we've industrialized? That bought me a round. At Lori Loaded, look at the world today. In first world nations, how many wars do they have that is not about resources? Why, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know that there's one war that doesn't have at its base the resources of that land. I mean, this would be unpopular, but the U.S. talks a big game, but there's a lot of times when other human beings are abused, and we decide it's not our problem. Which, I mean, that's an argument for a different time. But yeah, that's a good point. What do you think of Starfleet Museum website timeline? I don't know a lot about it. I'd have to do. Even if they have replicators, there will still be wars. Of that, I would agree. I think that we find ways to hate each other and fight each other. I would agree with that. Take that. There's no disabled ships. Deal 3 damage. Huh. That went a lot better than I thought it would. Yeah, I've effectively lost this. When a country or people are struggling financially, they don't have time to worry about the social injustices or smaller issues, and stable off and well-off economy can attempt to solve. Of that, I would agree. They also are more desperate, I guess. So they would be able to fight more. Dude, can you destroy me? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can. Why aren't you? Oh, because I got my shuttlecraft. Or had my shuttlecraft is the way I should say it. By the way, this is Star Trek Adversaries. It's a fun game. It's a fun little game if you just want something to veg out to. It's basically, what is it? The Blizzard game, Hearthstone. It's Hearthstone with a Trek skin. Yeah. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is game right here. I don't know how this thing does it. I think that the Vulcans did something to humanity on a subconscious level to blunt some of the more evil impulses within us. A lot of what they did actually helped with the xenophobic parts of the United Earth that existed. When you look at how the reaction to it, like when you see what's the word I'm looking for? Like things that happen in Enterprise happen because of the Vulcans and Vulcan, what they considered Vulcan oppression. I think that the Vulcans did it basically establishes a united Earth government with the solar dollar as its currency. Sure. Evil, I think the worst thing on evil person pales before the actions of idiots. Some may or may not agree with that, I would say. Let's do it to you. And then we'll draw that. And we'll do that. And we'll do that. Wow, I'm actually have a good, not a good chance, but I'm actually holding my own. That's weird. A single world currency will be the one thing that is never possible. Even with a united Earth, you would need to divide up the world into economic centers that use specific currencies so you can adjust. Do you consider the Federation a fascist state like some suggest? You know, here's my thing. A lot of people try to sit there and ask, you know, is the Federation fascist or, you know, are they... What is it? And when I get into those conversations or arguments, generally people try to catch you on definitions, right? So if I was to call them communist, they would say, oh, well, communism is whatever this person's version of communism is. And last game. Whatever this whatever their version of communism is. I would say that the Federation is definitively authoritarian, and I do think that there is a there's an oppression of thought and ideology, if not an outright oppression, that exists. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that people will look down on what they consider not to be part of the norm. You can see this with how the Enterprise crew treats Jellicoe. You can see this with how Sisko treats Eddington. Eddington's entire speech is reflective of this, in my opinion. And so I don't know if it's by law, but I do know that the Federation, because they live in paradise, believe that their ideals are above everything else. You see how they treat the Ferengi or the Klingons. And because of that, anyone who is not what they believe, is not their standard, and does not fit up, is ostracized. And I believe it is a far left authoritarian regime, which, you know, some people get upset when I say that, but if you look at what they accomplish, if you look at the fact that you're in paradise, is a far left authoritarian regime bad in that respect? And given what they get, I would say no. But I do say that I do keep with, and the Maquis are a good example of this, that they do not like different when it comes to ideology, when it comes to thought. And if Discovery got one thing right, it was that in the Remain Klingon versus I'm Starfleet debate. No, Jellicoe was just because a love CO left and replaced him. Happens all the time in the military, Mad Sloth. No, I disagree. First off, that type of jealousy, that type of, not jealousy, but that type of failings of humanity is explicitly in early TNG said that it does not exist anymore. They don't even get sad when people die. So they have evolved. They are superior human beings. So we don't see those types of emotions because they don't exist, especially in the next generation era. Beyond that, it's not just the person. They, in fact, don't have issues with the person necessarily. Jellicoe, before he goes off on his more right-leaning, more war-esque way, they treat him pretty normal, pretty good. And until he starts doing all of these things, all of these very military-ish actions do they start having issues with him. And if we look at who it's based on, which is Gene Roddenberry, this is exactly in line with his writing. Exactly. I tend to think that we truly come together when facing an outside threat, says Midrange, and it usually has to be a tangible threat that we can see. Things like global warming won't unite us on the same as a war. I would agree with that. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Shout out to Lore's cat, the true MVP. He's actually my editor. He's one of 2 editors. The other cat doesn't show up much, who's Mickey. This is Pumpkin. The other cat doesn't show up as much. Maybe we need an alien invasion to get our stuff together. Yeah, an alien invasion would definitely fix all of our issues. That is definitive. Yeah, the spaceflight chronology is a lot better in my opinion. I don't know what you're talking about in relation to that. Nathan Norman, I would rather live in the Klingon Empire than the Federation. With the Empire, you know what you get. They have a set of rules and are set in stone, but you can self-determine more there. That is later the Next Generation Klingons and into Deep Space Nine. They initially subjugated races to high hell and back. When you started out as a slave, but moving into the Next Generation and definitely Deep Space Nine, I agree, they are completely and utterly honest with who they are and what you to expect. But there is self-government at that point. So I think we're on the same page when it comes to that. Nathan Norman about to say something, then removing it. What is going on there? Corey 2000, should we want a Trek future? Now that, what's up, Mackley? That's an interesting question. Should we want a Trek future? So basically, for all intents and purposes, you have a paradise. People don't want for anything, each to their needs according to their abilities, or however it goes. And people, for all intents and purposes, can even do what they want to do. I mean, you have Sisko's father, who wanted to be a cook. That's what he does. But there is a definitive ostracism of thought. So would you be willing to give up your free speech, your ability to say certain things are wrong, without at least a minimum of being ostracized, if you could have free healthcare, free social care, the ability to do whatever you want outside of things that require free speech? It's honestly a good question. I'm a huge advocate of freedom of speech. I live in the United States. I'm one of those who have a near unlimited freedom of speech is what I think you should do. European Union, British, and German laws scare the hell out of me. I don't know. That's an interesting trade-off. I'd almost say yes. I'd almost say yes. Because I just think the benefits outweigh the negatives. Steve Martino, why does it come at the cost of freedom of speech? Whoever said that? That, if you look at The Next Generation, you look at Deep Space Nine, some of the original series, certain pieces of thought, certain opinions are either ostracized or outright illegal. And so, just looking at how it's treated, we're saying, would the Trek utopia be something you'd want? That's a part of it. The Federation might be oppressive, but at least they are not hiding from T-800s, says Matt Sloth 2. That is a good point. I like that. Also, the resources need to produce power for the replicator. Does the Federation have any new culture? I don't know what you mean by that, Corey 2000. Do they have any new culture? I don't know what is a quote-unquote new culture. Domehammer, a utopia without free speech isn't a utopia. I can't say that... I don't know that I agree with that. If you have a utopia where you can do anything you want, relatively. You have free healthcare. Medicine is advanced. Space travel, I don't know, maybe. Steve Martino, I grew up in Germany, can't go praising Nazis, but everything else is fine. I don't get it. Steve Martino, that is an absolute lie. It is not just Nazi propaganda that you can't spread. I'm not going to get into it, but I would suggest anyone who's interested, take a look at German laws and what you can and can't say. It is far and above beyond just Germans. Just Nazis. New hit songs, hollow program, not based on old pre-World War III culture. I'm a hard-headed Southerner, so I would take freedom of speech over all the shiny bells and whistles of the Federation. Word! I too live in the South, though you and me would disagree on that. It takes it. I mean, I'm not saying I like it. It's not something that's not. I would agree if you say that a utopia is perfection. It's not perfection, especially if people are oppressed when it comes to thought. I'm just saying that the trade-offs of free healthcare that actually works, of free socialized medicine that actually works, space travel, people don't have to work just to survive. They can work to do what they want. Those are some advantages. It's very enticing, in my opinion. If I was in Trek, buy a Star Trek, customize it, and get the hell out of Dodge, yeah. What is the best sci-fi future, says Corey2000? I think right now, out of all of the science fiction that we've discussed, Trek is the best. Especially Deep Space... Well, not... The Next Generation is the best, but Deep Space Nine is the more realistic. I just don't think it's feasible. Stephen Martino, I'm not going to get into an argument with you about it. We'll shut it down right there. Nathan Norman, the replicators work so long as there is power and matter. It'll make anything you want, but when you have everything, do you then have nothing? That is something that has been discussed as well. If humanity is given everything we could ever want, would that be to the destruction of humanity? I have a bit more of a positive outlook on it. I have a bit more of I think more of humanity than to think that we would become sloths. I think, and I honestly use myself as kind of an example. I don't want to get much into it, but I'm lucky enough that I'm able to do this for a living. And I was lucky enough that I could take some time to build this. I think that if you allow people the ability to do what they want, most people will choose to better themselves and to do something they enjoy and become more productive. Ragmar Virilian says that the reason why we say that is because we haven't read his book. Ragman Virilian, please send a tweet to @LoreReloaded with a link to your book, and we'll at least give it a shout out. Professor Janus, if we are given everything we want, we all die due to someone wanting something someone else has. But what if everyone can get anything the other person has? So what if you have a replicator and whatever a person could want, they could have. And if they saw something someone else wanted, they could have it. That removes the greed aspect. I mean, I guess we'd find a way. I could see humans trying to find a way to do that, but it seems like I have a better faith in humanity. We discussed this earlier, if people hadn't joined. Babylon 5, I think, is the most realistic. I think that if we're going to have sci-fi, it's going to be Babylon 5. Babylon 5 realistically looks at human nature, the good, because good is relative, the good versus the bad guys, authoritarian takeovers, how humanity responds to outward and inward threats. I think that is how it is. Steve Martino, so anyone can get a free spacecraft as big as they want. I think if people could reasonably see an attainment of their own vessel, they would move towards that. And I think that in the United Federation of Planets, in the Federation, that's completely reasonable. Now, not all humans. I guess in that instance, yes, there would still be some jealousy, still attempt to steal or kill to get what you want. But I think the large majority, if they feel like they could make it and do it, they would. I think. I mean, again, you guys can disagree. Matrix sci-fi universe isn't that unrealistic despite humans being incredibly stupid in the human versus machine war. So you think we're all in the Matrix? I think that there will come a time when humanity will have to decide, and the Trek talks about this, but I think it's going to be earlier than that. There's going to come a time when humanity has to decide if the robots that we create, if the robots, the AI that we make, are they human? Are they real? Do they exist separate from us? And I think our decision on that will push how we move forward as a species. I think there will come a time when you create a program that is indiscernible from a human at the conscious level. And at that point, once we decide if that is a slave that isn't real, or if we decide that that is something that can have its own autonomy, that's going to push us forward into a utopia or a dystopia. And I think that if we decide that AI isn't real, that's not a real person, even though in every way, every metric, this is a discernible entity, if we decide no, that's a slave, I think that hundreds of years after that, we will readjust our opinion on that matter, especially as AI continues to move forward. Can you be more specific about the thought policing? Whoops. Can you be more specific about the thought policing of Star Trek? Because I never saw that in TNG DS9, says Claus Nissan. I think that, yeah. So, and I would suggest you go and rewatch these episodes. I think that you can see it throughout the series of The Next Generation, and even Deep Space Nine, and a little bit in the original series. Some of it's benign. Some of it doesn't matter as much, but some of it does. Watch Who Watches the Watcher, in the opinion of religion, and how disdainful and how ostracized Picard makes it look to be for anyone who has a religious belief. Look at how Jellicoe is treated. I know some people try to say, well, it's a new commander, but I disagree. I think that it is because of his more right-leaning, more militaristic, and that's especially consistent with the way Gene Roddenberry wrote. So not only do I think it's portrayed on screen, it's also consistent with the writer. Though sometimes, no matter what the writer writes, the story is the story. In Deep Space Nine, the go-to that everyone does is the Eddington speech, where he says, you know, you're worse than the Borg. The Borg at least admit who they are, and what they're going to do to you. I think that you see, and I think Eddington is the best example, but you can see where they don't deal with different, they don't like the Maquis, they don't agree with ideals that don't go along with them. That's in TNG and Deep Space Nine. I've talked about it before, but of course Discovery's Remain Klingon versus I'm Starfleet. It's throughout there, and most of it's benign. Those are just the more extreme examples, but I think that you see it where even when Picard talks about how we've moved past the need for capitalism and money, which is funny given how much money I pay CBS because they're greedy. I think it's there. I think you just got to look for it. Let's see. Even 7 of 9 from Ryan Whiteside. A Borg said, even 7 of 9, a Borg said, may she have everything she wishes for, but one thing, so she always has something to strive for. Yes, I think every individual having everything they want would be bad. Well, that's fair. Nathan, all I would ever want is either Gloriana class battleship or a Katinga, though I don't think that would be, the first is feasible, but the last would be awesome. Well, I hope you one day get a Katinga class. Josiah Clark. Hey, okay, guys. Josiah Clark was one of the first guys I ever met before this channel started taking off and stuff. He does a channel called Blink. B-L-I-N-K-K. He hasn't really done any videos on it recently. It's gone idle, which sucks, but he is a great YouTuber. Check him out. One of the funnest guys I've ever seen. He says, hey, bud, just want to jump in for a second and say I'm really glad to see how well you're doing these days. Great work on the channel, and I hope you keep growing. Well, thank you. Thank you. You need to get back doing Blink, by the way, while we're on that. So CBS isn't as evolved as Star Trek? Oh, God, no, man. I have literally... my first videos, before I found ways to do it that they consider fair use, are still to this day monetized. Look at Rise of the Romulans, I believe is what it's called. Rise of the Romulans has over 100,000 or even 150,000 views. All of that money, every bit of it, goes to CBS. A multi-million-dollar corporation has taken thousands of dollars out of the pockets of a stay-at-home dad who just runs his own YouTube business that wants to be an entertainer. They definitively not evolved. Look at Eric Sung. His research and notes were destroyed because it was about genetic modification until Archer arranged for it to be saved. I know he committed crimes, but his ideas were policed. Yeah, so there's another. That's a perfect example. Look at what they did with Bashir. Look at Bashir. Bashir was genetically modified. They wanted to make him the LMH, and when they found out that he was genetically modified, something he had absolutely no choice in the matter. He was a child. They did this to him as a child. He had no choice in being genetically modified. He almost lost his being an officer. He wasn't able to be the LMH. Oh, here's a perfect one. Here's the drumhead. You want to talk about how you're ostracized and you think that you're worse if you go against the company line, if you go against the Federation, Starfleet, drumhead. They wanted to persecute an officer, a non-com. They wanted to ruin his life because he had a relative that was a Romulan. And you don't have a relative that's a Romulan during the TNG era. Oh, hell no, that doesn't happen. That's wrong thing. To have a relative that's a Romulan, or to be Romulan sympathetic, you are bad. Yeah, my cat's cute. I love my cat. So, do you have to pay every time you use a Star Trek pick? I don't, because of this fancy thing in the United States called fair use. And even though every one of my videos is absolutely under fair use, and if they took me to court, I feel confident I would win. Some of them they have tried to claim, and I haven't fought too hard simply because I don't want to go to court. But all of it's under fair use, and now I do it in a way that they can't do it. That it would be ridiculous for them to claim fair use. At Lore Reloaded, watch the episode again. They collected everything soon. They have a warehouse or a strange locker or some kind full of all his writing and such. I'll have to rewatch it exactly to see what you're talking about. Park Maxwell, you bring up a good thing. So you say, oh yeah, that social justice woman, social justice warrior woman was a bit, whatever, curse word. I know a lot of people like to call her social justice now in this term, but interestingly enough, when the character first came out, she was extreme right. The extreme conservative of not wanting anything different and trying to find everything. And I don't look at it as a social justice piece. I just look at it as a groupthink, a tribalism. And I think it honestly diminishes the message. Even with its original attempt to paint conservatives negatively, I think if you just look at it as a tribalism, as a fear of something that's not us, that the message is there. I think to call her social justice, I think to call her a conservative right-wing bat-ass woman, I think that diminishes what you're trying to fight when you use those terms. I don't like titles overall. I don't like defining things overall, mostly. But that's just my thoughts on it. Dukala, hey Lord, just want to thank you for the Europe-friendly streams. That is why I'm here, guys. Just so you know, I try to do lore in the morning. I would love to do a lot more than that. I would love to do a lot more than just this stream, and I should be able to within the next year. Later, guys, got to continue working on my second Star Shatter book. You'll need to check out Star Shatter. Apparently, it's really good if you believe Aragmar. And Aragmar is a pretty cool subscriber. He's been with me for a long time. Check it out. Federation could not negotiate if it was in a bear trap. The Federation is interesting, especially in Deep Space Nine. The Federation is shown to be the naive, utopia that it really is. And so its interactions, especially with Andre in the house, Andre, well, let me finish this, especially with its interactions with like the Ferengi or other species that use economies. You can see how they have trouble with not accepting things that are different than them. Andre in the house. Andre is a Patreon supporter. Just to let you guys know, if you like what you see, if you want to see this expand, the best way is through Super Chats, being a sponsor on YouTube, or Patreon.com. We do a lot of giveaways on the Patreon.com, patreon.com/Lore Reloaded, and you get a lot of advanced stuff. We actually just hit our first goal. I'm going to have a website, lorereloaded.com, up and active solely because of the people like you, supporters like you. So, Shronmore, amen to that. At 6 p.m. here in Ireland, cooking dinner for my wife while listening to the stream. Hey, I'm here for you. Again, I do want to do more, and I'm hoping I'm going to be able to. Michael Keeling, is the way you get around their claims a secret? Kind of curious, since I've been thinking about starting my own channel. It's not a secret. So first thing is that I fully stand by everything on this channel being fair use, with the exception of maybe a music video. And I think that, well, I know that's fair use, and I know that if I had the money to take them to court, I would win. What I do in order, it's not to get around, but CBS thinks that if you show any of their clips full screen, that's their stuff. That's a lie. They're bullies. They back down when you challenge them. I just don't want to take the chance that I'm the one they don't back down from. So what I do is I do a main overarching screen with solid pictures generally that you see go through. And then I do the small pop-out screens showing, and usually that's about a quarter of the screen itself. And they have agreed with me that that is fair use. Now, they're wrong. Using a full clip is fair use. I just want to be in a better position before I call their bluff. Ryan Whiteside, gotta go. Love your channel. You have a new subscriber. Ryan, love you. Hope you have a good day. Good shoulders, Cat, you got there? Yeah, he's... Are transporters unethical? I know Trekyards wanted to talk with me about this. Trekyards wanted to do a video on this. We may. Does a transporter kill a person? It does, and in the next generation, it clearly says it does. Joe Shaver's cat is watching me with him. Cool, that's fantastic. In the next generation, I forget the episode, but where you have the second Riker that exists. So Riker gets beamed up, and for some reason the teleportation device is, the teleporter is confused or blocked, and so you have two versions, right? You have a Riker on the planet and a Riker on the ship that he got away from. And it clearly says in there the original copy is destroyed, is removed. They don't say killed, I forget the word they use, but it's destroyed. But here's the question. I am a summation of my experiences and of my thoughts. Everything that's happened to me makes me me, along with my genetics. So if you made an absolute 100% duplicate of me, and then you destroyed me, did you really destroy me? You've basically made the exact same entity, exactly the same. Immediately after I was created, we would completely act the exact same. Until our experiences started making us differ from each other. I don't like Farscape. I don't watch Farscape all that much, but there was an episode I remember, because I've watched it here and there, where the main character, I forget his name, dude who was in NASA and got thrown across the galaxy, was duplicated. And at the end of the episode, he was playing rock, paper, scissors, and they were doing the exact same thing. They were doing the exact same rock, paper, scissors. So, if it's the exact same person, the exact same entity, there's no difference, and you destroy the original, have you destroyed it? The only way I think you could have an argument that it was destroyed is if you have a religious aspect to it and the existence of a soul. So I don't think that... I think that if there's a soul, maybe... Hey, I got dogs too, and they're freaking out. Relax, lay down. I think that if you have a soul, then you have an argument. And if you don't have a soul, then I don't know that you have a very good argument. Domehammer. Soul existing would be very important whether transporter is ethical or not. If the soul does exist and copies lack that, run into a real issue. That's what I say, and that's my point. If souls exist, then the transporter is highly unethical and you're murdering people. If souls don't exist, then you're just destroying... It's like taking a pencil, cloning it, and then throwing away the original pencil. You're not lost much. I think the transporter swaps atoms with other atoms in its place. Quantum swapping of atoms, so only one person swaps places and isn't destroyed and reassembled. That is not what it says in that Next Generation episode. I forget exactly what it says, but I know they say that the transporter removes the original. It specifically says that. What kind of dogs do I have? They're mixes. We saved a couple of strays from being killed. I'm not going to get any more dogs, though. I'm done with animals, honestly. Once dogs and the cats are gone, no more. No more. Iona 2225. Oh, God, the transporter argument. You dang right, the transporter argument. Why wouldn't we do the transporter argument? Well, Iona 2225, it would be like high school all over again if I was there and was obviously right all the time, which I am. So I don't think I was in your high school, so you don't have to worry about that. Laura Reloaded asking this a second time. What if the Colonia fleet, after the arrival of Pegasus, meets Enterprise-era Earth? I know a lot of people like engaging in this cross fanfiction stuff. I've never been a fan of cross fanfiction. I don't think that a Battlestar Galactica would play well with the Federation. I just don't. I don't think that that things would develop the way you think. I think you would have those of Battlestar Galactica and Pegasus not be able to interact or intermix. So I just don't think they'd go over well. Joe Shaver. I rehab abused animals as a hobby. Keep for a couple of weeks till they can go to normal homes. The 6 cats I've kept were the ones that needed to stay here. Yeah, I'm done with animals, man. I mean, I love my animals. That's why I haven't gotten rid of them. But once they're gone, I'm not going to get attached to more animals. I prefer the original series Battlestar Galactica. It has upbeat episodes. I honestly like Battlestar Galactica reimagined more myself. But I mean, if you like the original, I'm not mad about that. I just like that more. All right, guys. Iona, what I meant is it was one of those arguments that is based off of technology that can be explained as a hand wave, and 1,000 arguments have stemmed from the utter lack of info. Well, yeah. I mean, it is. We don't have enough information. So we can all be right and all be wrong at the same time. Speaking of Starfleet ethics, Shut Farms comes in. Enterprise episode where they clone Trip for his organs was interesting ethical episode. I have a lot of problems with the ethics of Star Trek Enterprise. Enterprise took a lot of the ideas from like TNG and Deep Space Nine, a lot of the wrong and bad ideas. It's an interesting discussion about what they did with Trip and the clone. Ultimately, it was his choice. I don't know that they should have done it in the first place, but it was ultimately his choice. They also played off what is effectively, to me, a character being raped for laughs. And there are some extreme ethical dilemmas. And then some stuff that they try to make ethical dilemmas that aren't. Like when they decided not to give the cure to the planet to save the people because of evolution, which it doesn't even work like that. there are some really things that I abhor about Enterprise. Enterprise has good spots in it. It has. I think that one of the good points was when they stole the warp technology to save their own planet. That's a good ethical. But Enterprise was one of those where when it went bad, it went real bad. When it went good, it went real good. I thought the O'Brien clone was more of a robot. O'Brien, what? Oh, I remember. Interesting thing about that, the O'Brien clone. They actually originally wanted to make it so O'Brien had always been a clone. He had always been a sleeper agent from TNG on. And there was enough backlash in that they decided to make him a clone. Apparently Mark yelled at me. Let's see, what did Mark say? Mark, can you just answer my question, please? Yeah, if you look at this, the stream has anywhere from 5 to 10 messages every 30 seconds. I can't see everybody. If you do @Lore Reloaded, there's a better chance that I will actually see what you're talking about. But there's no guarantee that I'm going to answer your question, or in fact, I'm even going to address it. And that's not on purpose. That's not me trying to have a go at you. That's just the way it works. Now, here's one thing you can do. And a lot of people get upset when I say this, but you want to guaranteed how I read and respond, do a super chat. You don't have to. I'm not telling you to. Super chat guarantees it gets read, or become a patron and send me a message and I'll address it. Those are the only ways I can guarantee. I try to get as many as I can, and if you continue to say it or you point it out like you have and saying, hey, why don't you answer? Then I'll try to do it. So Mark, say it again and I'll look for your name specifically. Nathan, transporter could theoretically make you immortal as long as you had a copy of your transporter pattern and some of your DNA. Yes. Yes, it could, because they do that. They actually they make you a kid, and you could do that over and over and over again. Transporter has some very serious implications. Talis Nor, say hi if you can see this. Hi. You didn't give me a clear answer on my what if the Colonial Fleet meets Enterprise Earth, says Marquez. I'm sorry, I thought I did. I don't think it would go over well. I thought if Battlestar Galactica, the people there, met the Federation, met the Starfleet, that it would end badly. You have people with PTSD. You have real humans versus an idealized standard of humans. They wouldn't be able to interact well. Most of them would probably end up in a Federation or Starfleet prison. Some of them would probably go and join Romulans, Klingons, and things like that. They are so drastically different that you might even have them trying to fight each other. I don't think it would go well. I think the humans of Battlestar Galactica were so drastically hurt that and damaged that they wouldn't be able to interact. I mean, if you want more on that, I'm happy to go further. I just need to know what you're wanting. So give me some more feedback. And by the way, Mark, I'm not mad, or I wasn't having a go at you or anything like that. I was just being honest as I could be. Joe Shaver, no question, just thanks. I'm gonna dance for you. Dance if you want to. You guys let me dance, and I still don't get it, but I'll do it. Let's see. Mark Hayes, so this is pre-Federation. Pre-Federation, most of that we see pre-Federation is not as bad as that. Though World War III and things like that, if we actually saw that, I think it would get that bad. Adama and Cisco would have an interesting conversation for sure, says Midrange. I think Adama and Cisco would be the closest you could get to two coming together, but I still think that because of what's happened, because of the worlds, Adama and Cisco could never agree with each other, even though they're the closest comparison that you could get. Iona2225, I remember reading a red shirt thing on Reddit and how the bridge crew reacts to the average mission. If they were normal, a link led to Rick and Morty freaking out in the car. Okay. Oh, man. Discovery Science has a special with Adam Savage about living for 1,000 years. You know, I'm not a big fan of death. I'm not necessarily looking forward to it. I don't know what's going to happen after death, so that concerns me. I know enough through fiction and through seeing people that I don't want to live 1,000 years. Especially if I'm the only one that gets to live 1,000 years. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Every beginning has an ending, and that's the way it should be. In our current world, even in our current reality. Things may change where that no longer becomes true, but everything that has a beginning does have an end, and that's a good thing. Sharon Moore, it's great to see that you have so many here that you can't respond at all. Hope your channel continues to grow. You and me, brother. I got some goals for this year that I hope I reach. Do you think the Cylon would go to war with the Federation in a heartbeat? Cylons feared humanity because they thought humanity would try to enslave them again. So I do absolutely believe that. Is the one theory, if you don't believe in something after death, you delete yourself from existence when you die, as you believed in there being nothing? There is one theory, I guess, is what you're trying to say. Okay. There's so many opinions. What's going on, CRR? Unfortunately, I'm ending soon, but I'm glad you could join, buddy. There's so many opinions and ideas on what happens after death that I generally get out of that business. For the longest time, I had a channel dedicated to what happens to you after death, and now my opinions are just that, and I don't generally get onto it, especially with this. I, for the longest time, had a Christian channel, if you can believe it or not. Lore is honestly the best at interacting with his viewers on streams that I've come across. If he doesn't get... Yeah, there's nothing wrong with... By the way, let's not all bandwagon. There was nothing wrong with Mark having a go at me if he felt like I wasn't answering his questions or ignoring him. I'm not mad. I'm done with the... people trying to be passive or people trying to, be wishy-washy. I just try to be completely upfront with you if we have an issue or when we address. A lot of people think I'm mad when I respond to you, and I'm not. I'm upfront. I don't deal. I don't leave a lot in mid-range anymore because not mid-range. I don't leave a lot to question or to try to read into. Come on, man. Follow the 8 noble virtues and sack a village or 2, and boom, Valhalla. Well, I guess I'll do that. Scroll up. Already asked it, says Joel Shaver. That is not how I'm going to do that once for you, Joe Shaver. But please, if you're going to ask a question, because, again, every 30 seconds, 5 to 10 messages, and you want me to find your name out of that. I think I found it. Joe Shaver, 1104. Last night you mentioned DS9 layout and use. Do you think that it's shaped the way it is because of the Romans liked ringed forts and bridge-only entrances to cities? Cardassians are Roman, I think. I don't think they're Roman. I don't see Rome in Cardassia. Though you may be right. I don't know. I don't know what it was based off of. I could see them definitively basing the structure off of something in history. Trek writers are known for that. I don't know. I don't know enough about structures. I'll have to go look back at that. Joe Shaver, it's the only culture that uses the rank of legate. Okay. I mean, that's fair. I'm not saying you're wrong. I've never really equated them with Rome. So, yeah, I just have to look up at it. We are going to be coming to an end in just a couple of minutes, guys, so any questions, definitively get them out. While I'm waiting for you guys to catch that and get them out, just so you know, if you comment on Video on Demand, not people who have been talking here, but wait for the video go live, comment there, you have a chance of winning a Galaxy-class ship. If you're in the United States, I will definitively send it to you. It'll be the end of the contest will be 228. If you're in the United States, I'll definitively send it to you. If you're not in the United States, if you are outside, that is incredibly expensive, prohibitively so for me. I know that makes a lot of you guys mad. Not a lot I can do about that. But if you're outside of the United States, I will reach out to you and we'll see if we can come to an agreement in some way that I can get it to you, cutting, whether it comes to both of us paying for half of the costs or whatnot. If you're a patron for as low as $1 a month, you have a chance of winning a Sovereign class. And these are from Eagle Moss. They're very high, very, very nice. I would not offer them to you if I didn't think that they were good. They were worth it. Original Cylon Origin or remake Cylon Origin? Which do you prefer? I prefer the reimagined. I think the reimagined is a lot more interesting. A lot of people disagree with me on that, though. Lore, love the design of the Battlestar. It's so beautiful, and the design of it's beautiful, and the command and control deck, that triple level thing, amazing. Yeah, they actually designed the Battlestar as an anti-galaxy because they didn't want the commander sitting down, which kind of makes sense and kind of not. I mean, if you stand there for 8 hours, you're going to get sore. But yeah. If outside the U.S., better order them yourself. As far as I know, they ship from the U.K. originally. They are in the UK. I mean, I could reach out to them. Maybe we could have them send them out or something. I don't know. I will try to work that out, guys. I will try to work that out. Why does the Enterprise have a barber but no dentist? They do have a dentist. It's from the infirmary. As you see in Enterprise, the doctors take care of it because of the technology. Laughable Larry, I'm pledging my support for this awesome channel. Laughable Larry, it is always a pleasure. Guys, I want to thank you so much for watching the channel. I want to thank you so much for just having these interactions. This is what I do. I'm an entertainer by trade, and I absolutely love my job, and it is because of you guys. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And everyone, I will see you on the next Lore Reloaded.